It is Saturday morning of the college football season, and it is week 7, and a great slate of games coming up today. This is our weekly Saturday morning rundown of a lot of the games, most of the games, not all of them, and mostly games in the SEC. But I did want to start outside of the SEC with probably, as far as the rankings go and that kind of thing. Probably, one of the biggest games of the day is number 2 Ohio State travels to Eugene to take on number 3 Oregon. Ohio State's a 3-point road favorite. Both teams are 5-0. I understand Ohio State being favored. Ohio State has seemingly had very little difficulty at all with anyone they've played. They haven't really played, a very solid Power Four opponent. Yeah, this is really kind of going to be one of their, if not the first real test they've faced all year. Oregon has had some good games, but Oregon has appeared to maybe struggle a little bit, especially in that win against Michigan State that they had. It didn't really have a hard time, but didn't completely dominate either. But Ohio State, a 3-point favorite on the road. That game will be, like I said, that game will be in Eugene. It's going to be a good game. Game day is going to be out there this morning. For the second week in a row, they're traveling out to the West Coast to get those guys up super early. So that'll be a good game coming up later. South Carolina travels to number 7 Alabama. South Carolina's 3-2. Alabama's 4-1. Alabama's a 21.5-point favorite. Yeah, that's going to be that's. I don't think it's going to be a boring game. Hopefully not. That game has the potential to really kind of see where everybody's heads at. Alabama's coming off of that loss to Vanderbilt last weekend, and South Carolina's just kind of being South Carolina and doing the best they can. South Carolina had that drama earlier in the week where the coach kicked the player off the team because he decided he wanted to redshirt. So not that there's been just a complete earth changing shakeup, but that game will be this morning at 11 or 11:30. So I plan on watching that game. Hopefully, do a halftime report on that game. But yeah, 21.5-point favorite. Maybe that's about right. I don't want to say that's too many points because Alabama can cover that if they wanted to. If Alabama can get their offense going again, and their defense actually shows up today, I'm sure South Carolina will be starting their starting quarterback. So they'll have some things they'll want to try to kind of see how that defense is going to play. Compared to how we saw them play last year. But I think that'll be a good game. I don't think that'll be as boring of a game as what a lot of people might think it's going to be. But this one, Mississippi State goes to Georgia. Georgia's a 34-point favorite. Mississippi State's 1-4. Georgia's 4-1. I do think that's too many points. Georgia wins this game. Mississippi State's the worst team in the SEC this year. They've just had some really bad problems all over. But does Georgia cover 34 points? Classic Georgia. What kind of start are they going to get off to? Mississippi State, when they played Texas several weeks ago, of course, Texas ended up winning that game, but at halftime, they were still kind of in there a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of score there is at halftime. But 34 points is a lot for Georgia to cover. I'm surprised that line is still that high, but we'll see. I mean, it could be 34-0 at halftime, and they could just keep right on going. That's a game where pretty much anything can happen, and probably anything will. So we'll see. Like I said, probably going to be a more of a boring game. Be Georgia's at home. We'll see how well their fans get up for that one, especially with Kirby Smart calling his fans out here not long ago. We'll see what kind of reaction there is to that. But yeah, Mississippi State, a pretty big underdog on the road in Athens. Vanderbilt and Kentucky. excuse me. Both teams are 3-2. The game will be in Lexington at Kentucky. Kentucky's a 12.5 point favorite. I made a little short yesterday. If this game goes Vanderbilt's way and Vanderbilt gets an upset for the second straight week, chaos and turmoil in the SEC. Really, really because of Vandy, not so much because of Kentucky. Kentucky has been their normal kind of self, but obviously Vanderbilt is the story of the country. Their quarterback has been on ESPN, and they surprised him with having Johnny Manziel on there, and then just other people coming out talking about Vanderbilt when obviously otherwise there wouldn't be a whole lot of attention coming their way. But Clark Lee is really maybe he has turned the corner. Maybe it's not just a once in a lifetime one off. Nobody will be surprised if Vanderbilt loses the next three or the next four. They'll still be admired for the Alabama win, but here's the time where you see if they've really kind of turned the page. I mean, their season has gotten off to a good start. 3-2, so 3-1 or 2-2 last weekend before they beat Alabama. For Vanderbilt isn't bad, but yeah, both teams are 3-2. Kentucky's a 12.5 point favorite, and that game will be in Lexington. Another game that has the potential to kind of turn the SEC upside down is the Red River rivalry. Texas, number one Texas, number 18 Oklahoma, neutral site game in Dallas at Cotton Bowl Stadium. Texas is a 15-point favorite, and some people say that's too many points, and then some people say it's about right. Texas is undefeated at 5-0, and Oklahoma is 4-1. I've got Texas winning this game. I've got Texas covering. I don't think Oklahoma will be able to hold up under what Texas is going to do offensively, and I don't think Oklahoma has the offense to keep up with what Texas is going to do. I don't want to say it's going to be a high scoring game, but there's going to be some points scored in this one. And if you're Texas, we're going to see the return of Quinn Ewers. Um, we'll see what kind of shape he's in. I think he's been fine. I think they have purposely held him out until now, just in case, because they realized what they have in Arch Manning, and taking Quinn Ewers out and putting Arch Manning in, that team doesn't miss a beat. So there's going to be a good game. Believe this is a 2:30 game. Um, Out in Texas at the Texas State Fair, so a lot going on around that game. But yeah, Texas is a 15-point favorite. I would take it. I like Texas to win in that. I like them to cover. Florida and Tennessee. So a lot's been talked about this game. This is kind of a make or break game for both teams. I think Florida travels to Knoxville. They're 3-2. Tennessee's ranked number 8, and they're 4-1. Tennessee is a 14.5 point favorite, and I like this one too. I like Tennessee to win. I like them to cover. Tennessee just got woke up last week. They got shook awake. Last week they were 4-0, off to an incredible start, one of the best starts they've had in a while, and they got caught asleep. The offense got caught playing a little flat, uh, not creative at all, very conservative. I think I really do think and really do hope that we're going to see more of what we saw in the first 3 weeks from the offense, with Nico taking more downfield shots and actually with Nico running the ball. Hopefully that offensive line figured some stuff out with some protection for him. He's in the last 2 games that Tennessee has played, Nico's been sacked 6 times, 4 times against Arkansas and 2 times against Oklahoma. So obviously with a bye week in between. So we'll see if there's any improved play with the offensive line. But I like it. 14.5 points at home against Florida. I take it. I like Tennessee to win. I like Tennessee to cover. I don't think it's going to be as close as some people think it's going to be. Now, there's people out there that saying it's just going to be a complete blowout. If Tennessee can score 60, they will. I agree with that. Tennessee's going to score as many points as they can. I mean, it's going to be one of those situations where we saw a couple of weeks ago where, even if they're up a really good lead and they've got a chance to score again, I think they will. I don't think Coach Heupel's going to pull too many punches on this one. This is kind of a style. Even if Tennessee does win this game, it's also kind of a style points situation for them too. Not necessarily with the AP poll and like voters or anything like that, but with the fan base. The fan base is ready to see something. From what I understand, Knoxville is at a boiling point right now and has been since probably late Thursday. I was basically told that, if you were coming to the game and you didn't show up in town before Thursday evening, you probably had a hard time getting into town and getting settled and getting ready for today. I mean, I don't know, it's still, kind of early over there. It's probably a little after 8 in Knoxville, but they've been out there early tailgating, getting ready for this one. Believe it's either a 6 or a 6:30 game. So the crowd, when I say the crowd is going to be into this one, it's going to be completely electric. They're going to have all day to get ready for it. Vol Walk and everything else won't be until later this afternoon. So, there'll be some TVs going on. They'll watch some of these early day games, but it's not like they're having to get up and having an early 11 o'clock game, right out the chute. They're going to have all day to get ready for it. Neyland's going to be packed. I mean, to say this game is going to be or is already long since been sold out is an understatement. Um, Coach Heupel didn't call everybody out, but he did point out the fact that it's been a month since we've played at home in Neyland Stadium, and really talked about the need for the Neyland effect to be there and to be in full force. And I think his words were clearly heard. So that it's going to be incredible to see with the way the fans are going to turn out and with the way that game's going to go. It's going to be great. And the last game I wanted to cover today is probably, I mean, even being a Tennessee fan, obviously, probably one of my favorite games of the day that I'm most interested in is number 9 Ole Miss travels to Baton Rouge to take on number 13 LSU. Not sure what time this game is. I think it's this evening or at least later in the day. Ole Miss is a 3.5 point favorite. Ole Miss is 5-1. LSU is 4-1. I don't want to say that this is a make or break game for either team. Maybe Ole Miss, but then again, both teams already have one loss, so somebody's going to come out of this one with their second loss, and it'll be obviously an SEC loss. Maybe Ole Miss because of the games that Ole Miss still has coming up. But with LSU, LSU still has Alabama on the schedule, but how hard of a time are they going to have with that? Is LSU's defense going to be any improved? This is going to be another game where the crowd is definitely going to be a factor. We are about to see, maybe for the first time, I'm not sure, how Jackson Dart is going to perform under this much pressure and distraction. 'Cause last year this game was in Ole Miss and it was a knife fight. This game turned out to be a complete shootout. Neither team played particularly good defense, and the score was like up in the 50s, I think. So this game could potentially do that again. It could potentially be another high scoring game. 3.5 points is about right. There are just as many people that like LSU in this game to win as do Ole Miss, and I think that's why the line has probably stayed as close as it is. Ole Miss has been favored the entire time. I don't think LSU has ever been favored in this game, but trust me, there are plenty of people for betting purposes taking LSU in this one because Ole Miss at night, that's a hard task. And then what kind of game plan are we going to see from each of these teams? Really, especially Ole Miss. How much of the injury thing are they going to utilize to try to slow down the clock? Get some extra time to kind of work things out. But that will depend on really kind of how the game's going. I mean, if Ole Miss has any kind of substantial lead at all, if Ole Miss is ahead 10 points or more, I would say that we're not going to see as many of these injuries. But that was a different video. There's been a lot said about that. I think this, even so, I think this is going to be a good game to see. So there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SEC games and one non-SEC game. So week 7 is going to be a great weekend of college football. Several ranked on ranked matches, 4 that pop out at me, right off, ranked on ranked matches. So really good games today. Like I said, I'll try to do a little bit of a halftime report, if you will, for the South Carolina Alabama game. We'll see how that game gets off too. Alabama's first game back in Tuscaloosa, like I said, since that loss last weekend to Vanderbilt, and then we'll see how Vanderbilt does against Kentucky. So, y'all have a great weekend. We'll check in with you soon.